what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are doing web requests. So we're going through that I can't remember what it's called, CJCA cert path. The path itself is actually called like junior cybersecurity analyst or something like that, but we're going through it. There's one box I had to skip, and that's this command shell box. I had to skip that because it's not a tier 0. I can't do it on YouTube or anything. So if you guys want help with that box, I apologize. Hackbox won't let us do those boxes. So we're going to hop into web requests. We're going to talk about them, and we're going to do some of the assessments here. So let me go ahead and start this box and then start that, and let's go into it. So first thing first, HTTP, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. It's how the internet works, right? It's when you go up here and you type in a website, it knows that that's the protocol that you're trying to talk to. That's how a browser operates. One thing people don't realize is when you're doing GET requests, you can actually put way more into the browser or into the URL than simply HTTP website.com. Very few people do that, but you can do that is what they're showing. So what they're showing here is the scheme, which is just the protocol you're using. And then they're showing the admin password. That's the username and password you're using. Then they're showing at inlanefreight.com. That's the website. So it's very similar syntax to SSH or something like that. Then they're showing 80 as the port. And then you can specify a resource, which is dashboard.php in this instance, but it's just a file that you're referencing, right? Then you can go to login equals true. That's your query status. So you're saying, hey, here's my query. In this case, login is what you're searching for, and it equals true, and the status of it, okay? So they're just showing that you can do this. They're not saying do this. So what I'm saying is don't go to sites and try to get crazy with this, because most sites use post requests to log in, so you're going to get basically just, I have no idea what you're talking about. So here is when you're using the internet, how it works. So when you go to the website, you say go to inlanefreight.com, and your machine says, where is inlanefreight.com? It asks the DNS server. That DNS server, sorry, this shirt is driving me nuts because my chair is not rendering in correctly. So basically, you ask the DNS server. DNS server comes back, says, here's the IP. You say thank you. You go to it. Then you say HTTP request. You send that whatever the request is. You get a response back. And then you actually get that OK back, which means, yes, you can access the resource. Very simple. That's a simplistic way. One thing to note is our browsers usually look in the Etsy host file first. This is important to note because when people manually add files to or records to the Etsy host file, guess what? Now you have an extra DNS record that your machine's going to render first. What that means is, if I'm an attacker and I poison your DNS by putting stuff in your Etsy host file, you're going to go to those sites instead of the ones you want to go to. Now, most security nowadays has different ways to stop that, but just know that exists. So once the browser gets the IP address, okay, we already talked about, we're going to be using curl. So we're not going to be using the domain or the web browser that much. We'll use it a little bit just to showcase different things, but we're going to be using curl for the most part. Curl is just like wget. It's a resource. It actually stands for client URL. So it's a command line utility that actually you can make HTTP requests directly from it. And that's what we're going to be doing. So you can see here they use curl tech0 inlanefreight.com/index.html, which is the homepage, and they're actually downloading it. So then they can go offline and view that site if they want, or look at the source code or whatever they want to do with it, right? And they're showing here that you can use the TAC S, and that's in silent mode. All that does is it just gives you the response and the relevant data. It gets rid of like the headers and all that stuff, so you don't visibly see those. They still exist. They're still doing it, but they're just you don't see them. Curl TAC H is your help menu. So this is typical with all commands and most commands, I should say, not all, but it's your help command. It tells you how to use it and the basic syntax for it. So to get the flag, start with the above exercise. Use curl to download the file returned by download.php. So we can actually do that right in here. We don't have to. I'm going to make it full screen and so you guys can see it a little better. All right, so curl. We'll have to go here and take this, allow it. we'll go to HTTP, and then it was download.php. There you go. There's your flag. And all it did was reach out to download.php and send a GET request, and that response was, here you go, right? Here's what that is in that file. All right, mark that and go forward. Okay, HTTPS. This is what most of us use nowadays, and most people are familiar with, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol Secure, which is just encrypting the HTTP requests. Now, the big thing here is most people think that HTTPS is all people use now, so there's no such thing as like unencrypted text and stuff like that. If you go to any company that's been around for a while and it's of large size, there's going to be servers that they have internally, meaning past their firewalls and stuff, that are still running HTTP. The reason for it is it's very difficult to manage certifications, or certificates, excuse me, not certifications, certificates and everything for sites. And now and then certs expire, and guess what? You can't have the site just not work. There's all kinds of reasons why HTTP still is in use in companies, and I'm not saying it's right or perfect, right? But companies have to prioritize availability over security, and you have to as a company, or else you're literally not going to do business, right? If you lock things down so secure that nobody can access it, well, you can't operate. So you have to prioritize availability at times, and that's just the nature of the beast, unfortunately. So here you can see this is an HTTP request, and they actually go to it in Wireshark and look at it, and it says admin password. It's in plain text. You can sit there and sniff the traffic on the network, and boom, you see the admin password. Then you see that same request, but you see it in HTTPS, and you can notice the protocol changes to TLS 1.2, and there's the data. It's encrypted. You can't see it. You don't know that the admin and the password. You can't see that. So that is basically the difference. There's public key encryption and all that stuff, but that's outside the scope. You don't need to know that. One thing to look at here is you see they have the little lock icon there. If you're ever in a browser and you have that little lock icon, some browsers don't have it, but that means, hey, it's secure. And you can go click on it, and you can actually view the cert and see who it's signed by and everything else, what certificate authority approved it, all that. So now it's secured. The request may still reveal the visited URL. Okay, so although the data transferred through the HTTPS protocol must be encrypted, the request may still reveal the URL. Yes, that is because DNS still has to happen, right? You still have to request the IP, so you can still see the visited URL. This is one of the things that is kind of going away with some of the new DNS, like DNS over HTTP and stuff like that. Or HTTPS, excuse me. The biggest problem with this is it's a huge security concern, and this is outside the scope, but if you guys are looking into new trends coming up and stuff, that is a big concern from security, because if I can't see what websites you're going to, I don't know if they're malicious, so it's really hard to secure that type of stuff. So now how does HTTPS operate versus HTTP? We say, hey, go to inlandfreight.com. Again, there will be a DNS request. I don't know why they left it out here, but you'll go to DNS and you'll get the response. Then you'll say, hey, get, and you notice it's on port 80, so it's HTTP. You'll get a response that says 301, which is a redirect, so it's going to actually send you to HTTPS. It's going to send you to port 443. Then you say, oh, okay, let me go to 443, and you say hello, and then you get the key. This is the encryption key. You guys exchange keys. You do your TLS handshake, and now we have a session where we can talk to each other, and we can actually just sit there and communicate encryptedly. So I don't know if encryptedly is a word, but I just used it, so hopefully it is. So this is actually something that's really important to people, like when you scan, especially when you get new to pen testing and you scan a website, a lot of times you'll see like port 80 open and you're like, ooh, yeah, like unencrypted. And 95% of the time, all it does is literally can just redirect you to the 443. That's all it can do. And so it's not as lucrative as you might think initially. So now curl for HTTPS, same thing, same syntax, curl. HTTPS, same thing. The only thing is they're showing here, you have to do TAC K here in this case, because curl doesn't have a valid cert, and so they're trying to figure out here, there's an invalid cert, and so they're saying, hey, you have an SSL cert problem. Maybe the cert is expired on the site. We don't know the problem here, right? So what they're saying here is if you need to ignore it, so I don't know if you guys have ever done this, but most of you probably went to a browser, went to a site. It says you have to go to advanced and click basically go to the site anyway because it says there's a cert issue. If you ever actually read the cert issue, it'll tell you like it's expired or whatever. You can go find the cert and all that. But this is how you bypass it using curl, right? So if there's a cert issue, you just do tac K and it'll skip that cert check. Okay, so now HTTP requests. So this is what the actual whole request looks like. So you do a GET request, you got your users login.html, and then your version of HTTP. So when that request goes to them, this is what the packet actually looks like to them, to the server. So you have to specify what host, what user agent, this is where you're coming from. So this is like what browser or whatever you're using, and you'll see that curl actually has its own user agents, but you can change that. And then you can see the language, all that stuff, the encoding. So that's what encoding it's using. The cookie. So this is if you have a session identifier. So if you have a session already established, you've already authenticated, and you don't want to keep authenticating every single time, it stores that session. Okay. So there is the first line of any HTTP request contains three things: the method, whether it's a GET request, a POST request, a PUT request, whatever, anything. The path, users login.html, that's just the path on the website you're going to. Like for instance, this path is module 35 section 220. The version of HTTP that you're going to communicate with, and this is pretty obvious, like if you're on a different version, sometimes it will work if the server is told to downgrade, but if there's certain versions like 1.1, a lot of servers are told don't talk on that version because it's not secure. And so it'll force you to upgrade or just end the session. Okay, so this is the response. So that was the request. Sorry, my mouse does that when I scroll up. Sometimes it scrolls down. But you can see the request. This is the actual response from the server. It says, hey, okay, 1.1, 200 code, meaning okay, we're good. You accessed it, so it's just like verifying everything. And then here's all the information, right? Here's the cookie. And you notice here they're setting a cookie, so they're actually giving you the session cookie, the path, all that stuff. Nothing really crazy. You can break it down pretty easily. So then they're saying if you use TAC V, you can actually see the headers. So you can see when you use TAC V, here's the header. And then they're saying if you use TAC VVV, it gets even more verbose. You can see everything. Then they're showing that in Browser DevTools, which we're going to use, you can actually see all of this information as well if you're going to it in the browser. So if we go to try click on it, okay, yep. So now if we go to the question, what's the HTTP method used when intercepting the request? We already talked about that. That is the GET request. Now it says send a GET request to the above server and read the response. So we're going to go here, and we're going to have to refresh this like every time. We're going to have to copy that. We're going to say curl HTTP. Okay, and then I think it's just the regular site. We're going to use TAC V so we see the headers. And you look, and you see the header, GET request, user agent. You notice the user agent's curl in the screenshot. They showed Mozilla Firefox. But then here's your response, and look at that. There's Apache 2.4.41. There's the server version. So right away, we just using a curl request, we already have some enumeration and information that we can use. So there's your 2.4.41. Okay, HTTP headers. So we showed some examples of headers. The headers are broken down into general headers, entity, request, response, and security. The general headers here, you've got your date, and then you've got your connection status, right? So is it closed? Do you keep it alive, etc.? Then you have your entity headers. So this is your content type. So you're going to notice we use application JSON. And here they're talking about text HTML. You can use whatever content type is relevant to whatever application or service you're using. Media type, application. Okay, so I said content type. It's actually media type that we're going to be changing. I apologize. But we're going to be changing this to JSON. And you can see the media type is similar to content type, describes the data being transferred. It plays a crucial role in making the server interpret our input. So again, it's how it interprets it. All this does is, and then 99% of this is done when you're just using a browser. It does it for you. But if you're going to do curl, you may have to do this yourself manually. But the whole point of this is to tell the server and your client how you guys are talking back and forth. Because if I'm sending you JSON data, but you're waiting for HTML data and you're interpreting it that way, and then you're displaying it, it's not going to display in the JSON format that I'm expecting, right? Boundary. So this is a marker to separate content that is more than one in the same message. So an example they talk about is form data. So within a form, you might have like username equals whatever. Well, I have to send you, maybe I have to send you a bunch of other stuff too, but I need to break those up. Like there's username, password, email address, whatever, and I need to break those all up. I need to tell you where that boundary is, where to break that up, because it's all going to come in one request, but you need to break it apart. That's what they're talking about here. Content link, this is how much information you're going to be sending them, and then encoding, what encoding method you're going to be using. Request headers, so this is when you're requesting something, the headers themselves. You have your host. Your host is the website you're going to. The user agent, this is an example they showed is curl. That's what we saw. The refer, this is if you get redirected, or like if you're going to a different resource internally or whatever, it's going to refer you from one of the sites you came from. It's just a way, an extra check, so that you're not just hitting a site randomly. It's so that like if there's a page somewhere inside there that the only way to get to it is to click on a link or something, you can get referred. This isn't really a security thing. The reason I say that is because yes, it might prevent some people from getting to it, but you can very easily just change the referrer in a packet and make it look like you're coming from the legit site and get to that resource anyway. So it's not really a security mechanism. Except, so this is what media type that the server itself can accept. So if you say, hey, application JSON, it's like we can't accept that. It'll show you what it can accept. And then cookie, this is a session identifier. So this is a cookie that is being stored to hold your session. And then authorization. So if you have authorization, meaning if you have like a username, password, or something, some sort of authorization API key, something like that, you can put it here. All right, now response header. Server, this is again the response itself. It's going to say, hey, what response are we, sorry, what the response we're getting. So the server, they're going to tell you, hey, here's the server you're connecting to. Set cookie, so this is the cookies that you need if you're establishing a session. It's going to send it to you and say, here, set your cookie to this, right? And again, your browser is going to do this automatically. And then the authenticate, basic, blah, blah, it notifies the client about the type of authentication required. All right, so security headers. So this content security policy, this tells you where, if you've ever looked at your content security policy, it kind of tells you where it lies. So it dictates the website's policy towards externally injected resources. So if something is being externally injected, here's the policy, how locked down it is, right? And then strict transport, this tells it, are we locking you down to only HTTPS? And if so, what's the max age of that session, etc. So it's just saying, hey, we're going to force you to use HTTPS versus you can't downgrade to HTTP and use unencrypted traffic. Refer policy. So this is whether the browser should include the value specified via the refer header or not. It can avoid disclosing sensitive URLs. So again, we talked about if you're going to a different URL or whatever, it may require a refer. It stops you from exposing that. Okay, so now let's use curl, and here they're using TAC I to send a head request and only display the response. So you notice we don't get the contents of the site, we just get the response. So you get all this information, but you don't have to look at the site. The reason you would do this is if you're doing recon or something on a large site. If I do a curl, I'm going to get everything. It's going to be a huge site. Or a huge file. I don't want to do that. I don't want to see all the source code of everything yet. I just want to look at the headers to see how I need to respond, right? Then here they're using TAC A. They're using that to change the user agent. And here they're putting Mozilla 5.0. So that's the user agent they're going to use. In DevTools, you can actually just edit these. So you can see in here, here's all the information. You can actually edit them. All right. The server above loads the flag after the page is loaded. Use the network tab in the browser, DevTools. Okay, so we're going to go here. There we go. We got to spin this bad boy up. It only takes a second. We got to open a browser. And this one takes just a second. There you go, CJCA, that's the cert. Junior Cyber Associate, that's the cert we're on the path to take for the purpose of this video. And you can see it's still loading, so we're going to go ahead and inspect. I'll make this as big as I can for you guys. Network, and you notice there's only 2. That's because when we loaded it, if you remember, there's only 2 sites loaded. So we'll just wait. You notice they haven't connected yet. We'll refresh it. And there we go. As we refresh it, you see, whoops, get out of there. There is a request to flag.txt. So now we just take that request, copy the value, go in here, and not in there. That would have been bad. Go in here, and put the whole value there, and there's your flag.txt, and it's hack the box P493 request monitor. There is the full thing. So pretty easy, pretty cool. All right, now HTTP methods and codes. So this is the methods you can use for an HTTP request. You can use GET request. This is a specific, exactly what you saw. We're requesting a specific resource, a file, just a website, whatever. A POST request sends data to the server. So this is what you'll see is a GET request. You can put parameters in there, but GET requests I think can only be like 2,000 characters or something, because it has to be in the URL. A POST request, can actually have the body. In the body, you can put data in there, so you can put files and things like that. That's why we use a POST request. Head requests the headers that would be returned if a GET request was made. So we saw the TAC capital I using curl, that shows us the head. Then put, if you have a database or something, you can put something there. You'll see that. We'll see that at the end. Delete, same thing. We can delete something. Options returns information about the server, such as methods. So if I'm doing recon, I need to see what you're going to accept. This is where it's at. And then patch. This actually allows you to edit things rather than just putting a whole resource there. You can edit an existing resource. Status codes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those are the classes of them. So 1 provides information, doesn't affect anything. 2 returns when something is successful, but there still might be something. 3 returns when the server redirects the client. 4 signifies improper requests from the client. So, for instance, you don't have permission, etc. 5, this is an issue with the server itself. So these are good to know just in general, because 200 means it worked, right? Now, there could be different 200 codes, but 200 means it worked. 300 means, hey, you were redirected. 400 means you have an issue, whether that's an admin or a permission issue, whatever. 500 means the server has an issue. So if you ever try to go to a website and it's got a 500 error, it's not you, it's the server. So 200 is okay. 302 is it redirects to the client URL, so it's redirecting you. 400 is a bad request. Return on encountering malformed requests, such as requests with missing terminators, stuff like that. 403 is forbidden. That means you have bad credentials. 404 not found. That means that file does not exist. And then 500 is an internal server error. Okay, so basic authentication. If you've ever used something like Mutiliday or anything like that, they have basic auth as one of the first boxes that you do. And what you're going to do is log in using, in this case, admin. And they're showing how to do this with basic authentication. So that is actually put in the GET request. So what that looks like is if you're doing a curl request, curl tac I, you get the header and it says access is denied. I can't go to the site because I have authentication. I have to basically authenticate. Well, the problem is when you're doing a curl request, if you're not on a browser, it's not going to pop up and ask you for the authentication. So how do you get around that? You can use things like curl tac U, admin, then the server for username, right? Well, you can also do exactly what we saw in the first example, which is curl HTTP admin at server IP and then port, right? That's the same thing. Then it'll give you the results because that's actually the URL parameters that it can take, right? It's expecting. So now when you go through here and you do verbose, you see the actual headers being sent. And the key here is when you're doing a GET request, it's expecting this format. A POST request allows you to put this in the body. That's the difference, and we're going to show that. So you can see here, once you do the request, you can see they put the admin in there. They get this response, and the response says, where is it? Here it is. The response says basic, sorry, it's in your request, but the request says basic because it's basic auth, and it's putting it in base 64. So, and this is just base 64 admin. Same thing, but it's putting it in there for you. It's doing that for you in the header. So what you can do is you can say curl H for your header, and then make your authorization header basic. So you're basically just copying this exact thing. The reason you would do this is now I don't have to put in the URL every time admin. I can keep doing requests, and it just is going to always authenticate me with that account. So as you can probably guess, the problem with this is base 64 is not encryption. You can easily undo it, right? That's why it's basic auth. This isn't really a thing anymore. But then you get this city search, and you start searching cities, and okay, you can search for leads, which is going to get you to these cities in the UK, etc. Cool. Now you can see here they're showing the full request in curl. Curl HTTP server IP search.php is the name of the resource you're trying to locate. Then you do a question mark and then search. That's a variable, and your searching equals LE. So all you're doing is whatever the variable name is. In this case, they named it search. Sometimes they obfuscate it by naming it something else, and it'll be something equals and then whatever you're searching for. And then they added that authorization header, and you can see they get the exact same results. Leeds, Leicester, I can't say that. And then here they're just showing you that you can do it from the DevTools as well. All right, so the exercise above seems to be broken as it returns incorrect results. Use the Browser DevTools to see what the request is sending when we search, and use curl to search for flag. So they want us to go here, refresh that, and they want us to look at the DevTools and see what's happening when we're doing this. So if we go here, we're going to actually log in. Admin. Not now. All right, and then we'll search for something. We'll just search for New York. And then here's the search. And then it said, as it returns incorrect results. So we see I searched for New York, but I'm getting Leeds, UK. Well, that's kind of annoying. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to do it using curl and see if that changes anything. Now, funny enough, if I can find the... I don't remember what the exact... let's just do this. We'll copy this, and we'll go here, and we'll say curl tac I, and okay, authorization required. So we get access denied. Okay, we'll get rid of the tac I, and then we will put that header at the end. I gotta remove a space there. We'll put that header at the end, tac H, because we know the header. And by the way, you can copy this header because it's just admin. And if it works, we should get something about searching for, oh, we got access denied, maybe because we have two H's in there. There we go. So we should get something, type a city name. Yep. Okay, perfect. So what that tells me is I need to actually do it like this and say, for one, I want to do tac V because I want to see the things, the headers. But what I need to do is search.php. And what we're searching for, I can't remember what we're even searching for here. Search for flag. Okay. So, and search parameters, question mark, search equals flag. Might need quotes here, but we'll leave it without quotes and see what happens. Okay, it did give me the flag. Now, funny enough, what we see here is we see our user agent is curl 7.8.881 or whatever, right? If we go here and we look at our header, and we look, our user agent here is this. So what we can try to do is use fetch in console, and we're not going to do it here, but there we go. Awaiting fetch, credentials include, and you can actually see it. It's really hard to see. I know with you, it's really hard for you guys to see because it's so small. But if you use something like burp, you can change the user agent, and I bet you if you change the user agent to curl, it will actually work. I bet you that's how they have this set up. I don't know that, but I'm betting that's how they have it set up. So see this user agent right here? Oh, that's just telling me all about the user agent. Get rid of that. There we go. But this user agent, this Windows, whatever, that's the typical issue here. Probably. I don't know that, but it's a fun little trick to try just because some people like to do things differently. I'm a person that I can use curl all day long. I like using curl, but if there's certain tools I like the GUI, the browser is not one of them, but I'm just saying there's certain tools that I do. So if you guys are like the browser GUI, use something like Burp Suite, Zap, Fox Proxy with those, whatever, and just send it yourself using a GUI and just change the actual user agent from this. So you can see here's the raw data. Change it from this user agent, Mozilla, Firefox, all that crap, and put in curl and see if you get a result, because I bet you will. So like here you can see requests. Okay, it actually, the response actually says please use curl. I didn't see that. That's actually funny. So you can just use curl. That's actually pretty funny. I didn't know that. And you can resend it, and you can see if you resend it here, get request is the same. User agent, let's change this, and we'll just test my theory here. I like to show you guys different ways to do things to showcase that it's not always as difficult as it might seem. So if we change it to curl and we add that user agent and then we send it, our response becomes Newcastle, New York. It actually worked. So now if we do the same thing, but we search for flag, send it, there's your flag. So they said in the thing, use curl. You don't actually have to use curl. You just have to use the curl user agent. So fun way to do it. Now, post requests, if you notice in here, we're doing everything in the top in the URL here. The search is in the flag, blah, blah, all that. You can, a post request puts a body, and the body is data that you can actually fill in. You can put files, all that stuff. They talk about it here, the reasons we use post requests. One of them, lack of logging. Post requests transfers a lot of data, file uploads, things like that, right? It would not be efficient for the server to log all uploaded files. So what they mean by that is you would have to put it in the request, in the URL. That would all get logged. So if you have a file and that file is a binary file, it might have thousands of lines of binary, right? Probably more than that. Well, it's going to log all of that because that's what it's reading, right? That would be insane. You'd have to upload it exactly like that, and it would log everything. It's not reasonable. Less encoding. URLs are designed to be shared, which means they need to be conformed to characters, right? So a bunch of characters would be automatically, you can't use them, so you'd have to URL encode them. You have to do this sometimes when you're doing web app pen testing anyway. You have to URL encode. So imagine doing that for everything. It would be a real nightmare. More data can be sent. So maximum URL length, yeah, it's around 2,000 characters. So anything over 2,000 characters, which doesn't sound, or it sounds like a lot. You're like, oh, I never would type 2,000 characters in the URL. But you upload one file and you're well over 2,000 characters, right? So that's kind of why they're saying we use post requests. That's what they're saying. So now they're showing you how to use login forms using a post request versus a get request. And so the login form, as you can see, is a form that after you submit it, post, right, it does something with it. You can make it go to send to a database and check things like that. You can do all kinds of stuff. And so you can see what they're doing is they're using the exact same scenario, except for now they're not using basic auth, which is a pop-up. They're using a post request. And if you look at it, you can see in the post request here, excuse me, here's the request. And you look, there's a payload. That payload says username equals admin and password equals admin. So that is the actual payload or the body of the message, right? So you can actually see that's in the body. It's not in the URL like before where we had to put a header in there or anything like that. There's no header specifying username and password here. It is in the body of the message. And then you can see here, if you're going to use curl, you have to do tac x post to say it's a post request. And then you're saying tac d for data. And then you're putting whatever data you want in there and then your request. As you can see, this is much cleaner in my opinion, because you don't have to add all those headers and start doing all this stuff, because later you'll start getting the sessions and stuff like that. And it, in my opinion, post requests are just cleaner. So authenticated cookies, you submit the request, right? And then you see they send you a cookie. Perfect. They say set your cookie. You then can use that cookie by using curl tac b, and now that is the session that you currently have, and you can actually get in. Now, then they're showing JSON data. So they're showing that the format it's giving you, you can see in the picture here that they're giving it to you in JSON format. Well, in curl, you're going to have to specify that. And you can see that if you actually look at the request, I don't see that they show it, but in the request, you can see it says content type is application JSON. So they are specifying that's what we're going to give you. So now when you go ahead and search, you go curl, post, D for data, you're searching London, so you're putting it in that JSON format they're expecting, and then you're saying B for the session identifier, you put it there, then the header, you're putting in the header like, hey, heads up, I'm sending you JSON data, and then you do it to that site, and the results, you get London, but you get the country. That's all this does. It shows the country as well. So now it says here, obtain a session cookie through a valid login and use the cookie with curl to search for the flag. So one thing, I'm going to show you the easiest way to do this. You go to the site. I'll just go admin. Let me go to the network tab here. Let me close this, inspect this, network tab. We'll go to admin, not now. And what we're looking for is we're looking for that post request, right? I saw it, there it is, okay? And you can see in that post request, we're logged in, and here's the cookie. So your cookie will be different than mine, so understand that. I'm gonna copy it, and then I'm gonna take that to curl. Use the cookie with curl to search for the flag through a JSON post. So what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna copy this exact search and just fill it in. So we're gonna say curl, okay, first fill in the server and IP, which we can actually get right here, 94.237.122.173, port 48569. I will add in, you notice the session identifier is, or the cookie is different than the one that's here. I'll copy this one, fill it in. All right, and then the search, I'm going to search for flag, not for London. All right, and hit enter, and there's your flag. And pretty easy, right? You could do that with curl, the whole thing, pretty easily, because you just look at the headers. But I just did it with that, and there you get hack the box post repeater. All right, then you just go through, and there's the flag. All right, last but not least is the APIs. So I love APIs. I think they're one of the best things if you know how to secure them. But basically API is an endpoint. It's sitting there and it's waiting on your instructions. That's really all it is. Now, you can authenticate to it. You can send it just basic instructions. You can have it do all kinds of stuff. APIs are pretty much limited by your imagination if you do it correctly. Now, we're going to use CRUD here. So CRUD is create, read, update, delete. These are the options that we have for this, right? So if you're going to create something, add the data into the database, you have to have a post request. If you're going to read something, you have to have a get request. If you're going to update something, a put request. And delete something, a delete request. So basically, hey, I want to read that API. I want to use the API and I want to read basically the city, right? The search. So we say curl, HTTP server, blah, blah, all that stuff. And we're hitting the API.php. And we're going to read the city. And in this case, London. So you read it. It prints out. Here's your city in London. And then you notice they put it in JQ. The reason they did that is it makes it look, it actually prints out in JSON versus this is JSON, but it doesn't print it out as nice. Then you say, okay, I want silent. Okay, all silent does, again, we've talked about this before, but is it gets rid of the excess stuff. So it doesn't really do anything. It's just a nicer format here. And then here you see they're doing it again, but this time they didn't put any city. They just hit the city API and it prints off every city. Okay, we're going to go ahead and copy this because we're going to need this. Actually, we won't copy it because we're going to copy the server in a second. But so now if I wanted to add a new entry to the cities, if I want to add a new city to the database, I have to do a post request. So curl post, and then you're hitting the API city, and you type D for data, and you got city name, and they're adding Hack the Box city, and the country name for it is Hack the Box. Keep in mind, you have to know what data is in there, because if you're trying to add country, state, all that, and it only accepts country, it's gonna be like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then H, header, content type, application JSON. All right, and then you go in, you got your curl, you got your silent, all that stuff, and you print it off because all they're doing now is they're trying to read the city they just added. And look at that, there it is, it added the city. Perfect. Now if you want to update it, meaning take a city that already existed and change it, you go post or a put request, excuse me, and you're putting it, and you're hitting this one. They're doing London, so they hit the API, they say city London, they're putting data, city name is now new Hack the Box city, so when you search for London, it's going to say new Hack the Box city, and the country is Hack the Box. Now when they search for London, when they go to it, look at that, the city name now is new Hack the Box city. And then delete's pretty self-explanatory. You hit the API that you want here with the delete request, and it's going to delete it. All right, now we got to do the exercise. Try to update any city's name to be flag. Okay, well, that should be easy because they showed us right here how to update. So we copy this exact thing. Just got to add our IP. So we say boom. Okay, for some reason it didn't copy, I guess. Okay, there we go. Now we just change the server port, and then we'll change the city name. Okay. Copy that. There we go. All right, so first step is update any city's name to be flag. Well, they gave us the exact command with London city name. We'll name it flag. Flag. And then we'll leave the country. Instead of the Hack the Box, we'll say UK. I think that's what it was. And we'll hit enter. And if you don't get a result, that's good. That means because we could put verbose and it would show us the 200 code, but that means, hey, it worked. Now it says, then delete any city. Okay, well, in order to delete a city, we have to know what cities are there. So we'll say curl, and we'll say HTTP 83.136.253.59.3 8838 API.php city, and we're not going to actually say anything else. And you notice it's in terrible format, so we're going to go JQ. And then, okay, first city I see is Baltimore. Let's go ahead and delete Baltimore. All right, so all we do now is delete. We just say, hey, delete. So what we're going to do, copy the exact thing, get rid of JQ, and we're going to say Baltimore, if I can spell, Baltimore, and we're going to say X delete, and if you see, that's all you got to do, specify the city. Now when we actually view it, Baltimore's gone. So we just deleted Baltimore. Now when we go to search, right, we want to search for flag. We just search for it, and there you go. There's your flag. Hack the Box CRUD API manipulator. Pretty cool, pretty easy, but it's definitely something not just pen tester, everyone in cyber should know how web requests work as well as APIs. It's part of the world. It's how we operate. It's how things work. Please, please learn this. This is vitally important to understand, because I see all the time people use things like Burp Suite, Zap, all that stuff, and then you say, okay, you can't use that. And they're like, I have no idea how to do this. The problem with that is there's ways to block those types of tools in environments, and if it's blocked and you're a pen tester and they go, we're not going to unblock your tools, like that defeats the purpose of the pen test, then what do? Do you know how to do it? Hopefully. So hopefully this helps you guys. Hopefully you guys have a great day, and let's keep going on this journey, and hopefully we can get to the cert, because there's only a handful of boxes left. So thank you guys. Have a great day.